Holiday Show on our segment Deaf People Can Learn. Today we have with us Beth Barron, Doctor of Deaf Studies, Jamie Walton, historian, and Gallaudet. Today they have a story to tell us about Thomas Gallaudet and Laurent L. So Beth, can I call you Beth? Tell me about those inspiring men.
Well, Laurent L was born in Paris some 230 years ago. He was one of the first great deaf minds of our time. Through a tragic accident at the age of 1, Laurent would get a burn on his right cheek, which would derive his name sign for the rest of his life. 2 fingers sliding down his cheek.
Just like this?
Just like that.
Very interesting.
It was unsure if he lost his hearing from this accident, but nonetheless, he was deaf.
Because he was deaf, he had no schooling growing up until his uncle took him to the Paris School for the Deaf when he was 12. Laurent was hungry and eager to learn and excelled in his studies. However, one of the assistant teachers at the school mistakenly attempted to teach him how to speak. This was very hard for Laurent. He would mix up often. The teacher would get so impatient and frustrated that he would strike Laurent under his chin. Being hit hurt him physically and scarred him emotionally so that he vowed he would never speak again. This experience instilled in him the idea that sign language really is the right mode of communication for the deaf. Regardless of what happened to Laurent, he stayed in school and continued his education. At the age of 20, he started to tutor other students and eventually became a teacher.
Well, that's fascinating. Now tell me about this other man whose birthday we're celebrating today.
Yeah, that's right. Thomas Gallaudet was born on December 10th, 1787. Happy birthday to the man who brought America deaf their own language.
Happy birthday, Thomas!
Thomas was a very smart man. At the mere age of 15, he was accepted and educated at Yale. After his schooling, he came back to live with his father in Hartford, Connecticut. One time, while he was outside, he saw the neighbor children playing games together. But he noticed one girl who sat alone, not playing with anyone. Intrigued by the girl, he called her over to find out that her name was Alice Cogswell, daughter of Mr. Mason Cogswell, and that she was deaf. Curious as to her knowledge, he grabbed a stick, wrote the word hat in the dirt, and then pointed to his own hat. Alice was able to recognize and understand this, and Thomas realized that Alice was no different than any other children. She could learn and be taught, and he had to help her.
So he talked with her father, and together they formed the idea of sending someone overseas to Great Britain to bring back a language for the deaf children, namely Alice. The city fathers agreed with this idea and chose Thomas to do the job. With help of many of Dr. Cogswell's wealthy friends, they were able to gather sufficient funds for the trip. So we see Thomas's undeterred resolve and willingness to go to Europe.
His son Edward put it perfectly. It is not difficult to perceive, therefore, that while Mr. Gallaudet accepted cheerfully the responsibility now laid on his young shoulders, and did not hesitate to respond to the call of duty so soon as he perceived it to be such, this decision involved no small personal sacrifice.
Yes, how inspiring that a man of such a young age could be so selfless. In Europe, Thomas contacted the Braidwood Academy for the Deaf, trying to find a good method of communication for the deaf. But Braidwood would not give up their secrets of oral communication. Even then, Gallaudet didn't like oral communication and knew there must be a better solution. While still in Great Britain at a lecture, he met Abbe Sicard, head of the Royal Institute in Paris. At that lecture, Sicard was showing off her brilliance of his prized deaf students, Jean Massou and Laurent L. This was the first time Gallaudet had witnessed such comprehension and education from a deaf person. He was astonished and truly inspired.
Wow, that is so inspiring.
Thomas studied under Abbe Sicard for 2 months until one night he had a conversation with Laurent L, where Laurent proposed going back to America with Thomas to be his assistant as a teacher of deaf children. Thomas knew that Laurent was a favored pupil of Abbe Sicard and that the Abbey would not give him up easily. But Abbe Sicard did approve a 3-year contract in which Laurent would be able to go to America with Thomas, and that is how their adventure began.
I can't imagine how difficult that would be for Laurent to leave his home and his family and travel to a new country, foreign to him.
Yeah, Laurent was very sad to leave, but due to his adventurous spirit, he was also very excited.
Well, as Thomas and Laurent traveled back to America to start their first deaf school, the voyage was very long, so Laurent was able to educate Thomas on the French Sign Language. Once in America, they successfully started to raise public and private funds for the school. You can see in both of their lives the dedication and conviction they had for the deaf community. Laurent L truly believed a day when deaf people and their language are completely accepted, no more than that, truly welcomed as a part of the family of a man which had created diversity, not to oppress the minority who are different, but to enrich the lives of all.
They helped the deaf in so many ways that they couldn't do for themselves. Gallaudet's life was for others. He was one of the most selfless people I have yet learned about. After serving from 1817 to 1830, he resigned from being the principal of the American Asylum of the Education and Instruction of the Deaf and Dumb. Quite a mouthful there.
It is.
But even after he left from being the principal, he devoted his life to writing children's books and being a minister. His life teaches us that whatever you do it 100%. Go all the way. Even the world says you can't, you can, because anything is possible. Gallaudet said that deaf people can learn, and he definitely proved it.
The deaf people in America need to realize how truly blessed and fortunate they are to have such a beautiful language at their fingertips, and the knowledge that, as Thomas Gallaudet said, deaf people can learn. Thank you. We'll be back next week. Have a great day.